Hello everyone, today I am going to show you how we can implement Spring Batch with the help of Spring Boot application. And here we will use Reader, Writer, Processor, and with the help of Reader we will read all the data from MySQL database, and with the help of Processor we can modify or transform the data, and with the help of Writer we will generate CSV file and we will add all those data which we are reading from Reader, okay, into CSV file. And we will also use listener. So with the help of listener we can perform any type of action before and after the job, and at the end we will also create an endpoint to trigger our job. So let's start.
This is MySQL PHP MyAdmin dashboard, and here we have rows Kharido database, and inside this we have multiple tables, and inside user table we have around 1 lakhs of data, and the columns are ID, name, email. Okay, so we will process around 1 lakhs of data with the help of Spring Batch into our Spring Boot application. So firstly I'll create one application. So write Spring Initializer on new tab and then select on this first option. Then here we have to choose Maven, Java, version, and we have to provide our project basic details like group, artifact, name, description, package name, and we have to choose packaging and Java version as 17. Okay, so choose these all informations and write some basic information related to this project, and then we have to add some dependencies. So firstly I'll add one dependency, that would be Spring Web for RESTful APIs, and the second I'm going to use data JPA dependency. Okay, and the third would be MySQL driver for MySQL connectivity, and the fourth dependency I'm going to use Spring Boot dev tool for hot reloading. Okay, and the fifth dependency I will use batch, okay, for Spring Batch, because we are going to use batch into our project. So these are the 5 dependency, and now just click on this generate button. So our project is generated. Now I'm going to open download directory, and here, so this is our project. I'm going to extract this. So this is our extracted project. If you go here inside this, then these are the files. I'm going to cut this project from here, and I will place this project on some different directory. You can place on any of the directory into your system. And now I'll open this project from IntelliJ. So this is our project. Then click on OK. So all dependencies are loading now. I'll expand this src main and then Java, and then this is our main method. So I'm going to remove these unnecessary spaces. This is not required, but I'm removing this. And in pom.xml file I'll show you. So these are the dependency which we have added. Okay, batch, data JPA, web, Spring Boot dev tools, MySQL connectors. Okay, so close this, and in the resources directory we have application.properties. So I'll change the name as YML. Okay, because YML support hierarchical architecture. So open this application YML file and just copy the project name. Okay, and then remove this, and I will write Spring application and then name, and then provide the name of the application. So this is the hierarchical architecture. Okay, and after that we will have to use data source, because we are going to use database. Okay, we are using this MySQL database, so that's why we have to provide multiple things like URL, username, password. So the URL would be JDBC MySQL and then colon, and then we have to write localhost and then write colon. Then we have to provide the port number. So just open your jam server, and here you can see MySQL is running on 3306 port. So just provide that port number here, and here we have to provide the database name. So this is our database name. Okay, and now we have to provide username. So by default username of Jamp is root. Okay, and then we have to provide password. So the by default password is blank. If you have any password, then you can mention here. Then we will use JPA and then write hibernate because we are using hibernate, and here we have to mention DDL auto update. Okay, why we are using update? Because suppose one table is already created into the database, and on the new launch if you don't want to create that table again, so that's why we are using this update. So on the next run it will update, and we are using show SQL true because we want to show the executed query on our log. And here we need to provide batch configuration, so write batch, and here we have to provide two things, JDBC and job. So inside JDBC we have to use initialize schema always, so it will create all the tables related to batches. Okay, when we will run the application, then it will create all the tables related to batches. So that's why we are using initialize schema always. And then we have a job, so just provide enable equals to false. Okay, why we are using false? Because we will create a manual endpoint to trigger our job. If you don't want to create manual endpoint, then you can keep as true. Okay, just close this. And then our next step is to create one package for model, and then I'll create one model that would be user model. So we will map all the fields which is available into database, and I'll annotate this class as entity and then write table, and then we have to write the name of the table. So I am going to provide the name of the table, so the table name is users, so write users. And here we have to provide all the fields which is available into our database. So these are the fields like ID, name, email, and ID is auto increment. Okay, and name and email are varchar. So here write private long ID, and we have to provide this as ID and just import this with Java persistent. And here we will use generative value and the strategy and generative value dot identity, so it will behave like a primary key. And then we have to take two more variables, one for the name and the other will be email. And our next step is to create getter and setter of ID, name, email. Okay, ID, name, email, these are the columns. So just select all the fields and then press alt insert into your keyboard and select all the fields. Okay, and click OK, and then cut this from here, and I'm going to paste here to organize our code. Okay, so we have successfully created getter and setter of these all fields, and now I am going to create one more package, so that would be listener. Okay, and inside this we will have to create one Java class that would be user listener, and just annotate with @component, so it will register as a bean. And we'll have to implement with job execution listener, and job execution listener provides two methods. First one is the before job and second one is the after job. So if you want to execute anything before job, then we can mention inside before job, and if you want to execute in anything after job, then we can define inside after job method. Okay, so we will have to override both methods here. So first method I am going to override, so write override, and then we will use public void and then write the name of the method. So this will be before step, and then in the parameter we will pass job execution listener, job execution, and then execution. And now I am going to change this as job, and I'll show you one log. Okay, before job, so write system.out.println, and then write, so here I am going to show the name before job. Okay, so write job name, and we will get the job name with the help of this execution. So write execution dot get job instance dot get job name. So with this way we will get the job name before job execution. So similarly I'll create one more method here that would be after job, and here I'll show job status when the job will be completed. So write job status, and we will get job status with the help of this execution. Okay, so remove this and then write execution dot get status, so we will get the status after job execution completed. So our user listener code is also completed. Now I am going to close this, and again I'll create one more package that would be reader, and here we will create one more Java class and write user reader, and then annotate with @ component, and inside this user reader we will create one bean, okay, and then write public, and here we will use paging item reader, JPA paging item reader, and the type would be user model, and write reader. Okay, so why we are using JPA paging item reader? Because we will map all the fields on the basis of pagination. Okay, so we will map all these fields on the basis of pagination, so that's why we are using this JPA paging item reader, and we will map on the basis of this user model. And here we will use entity manager factory, because we will have to execute some operation with the database. We are fetching the data from database, so that's why we are using this entity manager factory. And here we will initialize and declare this paging item reader. Okay, and now we will use reader dot set entity manager factory, and we will pass this entity manager factory, so it will automatically fetch all the data which is available into the database. And then we will use reader dot set query string, and we will have to pass the query which will fetch the data from the database. So we will write select strings from the table name. So to write that query, we will use select u from, and then we will have to pass the model name, user model, and then write u. So this query will behave like select strings from users table. Okay, so it will fetch all the fields which is available on users table, and then write reader dot set page size, and here we have to provide our chunk size. We can also say as page size. So on every page we are going to show 1000 data, we are going to fetch 1000 data, so that's why we have passed page size as 1000, and save state would be false because we are not saving the data inside state, so that's why we are using this. And per page we are fetching 1000 data. Okay, and just return this reader, this JPA paging item reader here. This is the return type, so just pass the reader, and our reader code is completed. Now I am going to create one more package, that would be writer, and inside writer create one class that would be user writer, and just annotate with @ component, and inside this user writer we will create one bean, and here we will use public, and JPA item writer we will use, FlatFileItemWriter we will use, and the type would be user model. Okay, and then initialize and declare this FlatFileItemReader here. So we will fetch all the data, we will read all the data with the help of reader which is available on database, and we will create one CSV file and store into resources folder. Okay, so that's why we are using this set resource, and we will have to pass the path name where we are going to save the CSV file. So inside src main, and then we have to provide the location. Okay, so inside resources we are going to save our CSV file. After this we will have to provide the file name, so I am going to write the name as output_file.csv. so with this name our CSV file will be generated. Okay, inside resources folder, and then write set append allowed false. So every time it will replace the file if the file is already exist. And then we will use writer dot set header callback, and here we have to pass all the headers, okay, like id, name, email, which we are reading from our database. So these are the headers, id, name, email. So we will create headers with these names inside our CSV file. And then we will use bean wrapper field extractor, and this will be the type of user model. So just initialize and declare this. Basically we are using this because we have to extract all the data from user model on the basis of comma, okay. So write set names, and we have to provide all the names which we are going to extract from user models. So pass all the names here inside this curly braces. So these are the names which we are going to extract. So write id comma name comma email. So these fields will be extracted, and for on the basis of comma we are going to extract. So we will use delimited line aggregator, and this will be the type of user model. Just initialize and declare this delimited line aggregator, and here we will use aggregator dot set delimiter. Write aggregator dot set delimiter, and we will provide comma. So on the basis of comma we will extract all the fields, okay. And then we have to pass this extractor from we are extracting the data. So this extractor we have to provide inside this aggregator. So on the basis of comma we will extract all these fields like id, name, email. And then we will have to use writer dot line aggregator. So just pass our aggregator here, and then we will return writer because the return type is FlatFileItemWriter. So our code is completed. Firstly we provided our location, and then we added the headers, and we have extracted all the fields from user model, and then we are segregating all the extracted value on the basis of comma, and then we are returning our writer here, okay. So we have successfully completed these all codes, and now I am going to create one more package that would be processor, and create one more Java class that would be user processor. So write user processor here, and then we have to annotate with @component first, and here we have to implement item processor, and it will take two parameters. First would be user model, and the second would be user model again. And we will have to implement one method that would be process items. So just click on OK, and then change this item with user, and in return we will pass this user. So if you want to modify or transform any type of data here, then you can modify here. So that's why we are using user processor. And now we will create one more package that would be config, and here we will write our configuration class. So the class name would be batch config. You can take any name, and here we will create a pipeline of reader, writer, processor. So first, and this class will be the configuration class, okay. So we will create pipeline of reader, processor, writer here. Just annotate with configuration first, and inside this class we have to provide two things. First we have to inject two things. First one is the job repository, and the second one is platform transaction manager. Job repository basically used to manage steps and jobs. Similarly, I'll inject platform transaction manager. Write private and then platform transaction manager. So platform transaction manager basically used for commits and rollbacks, okay. And now we have to create two beans, one for the step and one for the job. So this will be step bean, write public and then step, and then write the, firstly we will have to import this step from batch core library and then write the name of this step. So we will provide the name like user step, and here we have to provide three things. First will be reader, second will be processor, and third will be writer. Okay, so we will create a pipeline of three things, so these will execute in a sequence. Write JPA paging item reader, and the second one is the processor, so write user processor, and then third one is the writer, so we have this FlatFileItemWriter, write this. So these are the things which we will use inside this user step. And now we will return this step, so write return new step builder, and step builder will take two parameters. First one is the step name. Okay, we have to provide the name of the step, and the second one we have to provide this job repository. So write the step name as user step, and we have to pass our job repository here. And now we have to provide chunk here, so write user model, again we will write user model and then write chunk. Inside this chunk we will have to use new simple completion policy, and simple completion policy we have to provide the chunk size. So I am going to provide as 1000, and after comma we will have to use platform transaction manager here. So pass this transaction manager, it will manage rollbacks and commits. And now we have to pass reader, processor, writer here. So firstly I am going to pass this reader, and the second one we have to pass this processor, and the third one we have to pass our writer. And last option is we have to use build. Okay, so this is our first bean and this is our step. Now we will have to create one more bean for job. So write @bean, and then we will use public and then import this job from batch core library. Okay, and then write the name of this job like user job. So with the help of this name we will execute our job. And inside this job we will have to provide two things. First one is the step and second one is the listener. So write step, and we have to use this user step name. So write step here, and this is our listener, user listener. So we will use this user listener here. Write user listener and listener. Now we will have to return this job. So we will use return new and then write job builder. So inside this job builder we will have to provide our job name and job repository. So the job name I am going to mention as this user job, and the second parameter would be this job repository. Okay, and now we will have to use incrementer here to create unique ID on every instance. So write new run incrementer here. Okay, so when the new instance will be created, then the unique ID will be generated here. And now we will have to pass this listener and write start and then pass our user step. So it will start our pipeline when the job will be executed, and then write build. So we have completed our code of configuration class, and we have successfully created the pipeline of reader, processor, writer. So these will execute in a sequence when our job will be triggered. Okay, so I am going to close this, and here I am going to create one more package, that would be controller package. So we will create a manual endpoint to trigger our job. Inside this we will create one Java class, that would be user controller, and we will annotate with @REST controller here, and we will also annotate with @request mapping and pass any endpoint. This is not required, but I am going to use this. And inside this controller we will have to use two things. First one is the job launcher, and second one is the job name from which we will execute our job. So we will have to inject both things inside this controller first. So write @autowired and write private, and then we will use job launcher and then write job launcher. So with the help of this job launcher we will execute our job. And second one, we will use job here and import this job from batch core library and then write the name of the job. So just open batch config class and this is our job name. So copy this and then paste here. Must be the same name. Okay, then we will create one endpoint to trigger our job. So write @get mapping and then pass the endpoint URL which we are going to trigger. And then write one method. So I'm going to use string as return type, and the method name I'm going to write as start job, and inside this we will have to create a job parameter. Okay, so we will provide that job parameter while running the job. So write job parameter equals to new job parameter builder, and then we have to use add long because we will have to pass one unique ID when job will be executed. So write time, and the second parameter would be system.current millis. So it will generate one unique ID when we will execute our job. On every job it will create a unique ID. Okay, so that's why we are using. And then write .job parameter .toJob parameter, and now we will have to execute our job. So write job execution equals to, and then we will use this job launcher and it will provide one method that would be run, and inside run we have to use two things. First one is the job, so and the second one is our job parameter which we have recently created. So just pass our job name as a first parameter, and the second parameter we have this job parameter. So pass this, and as you know that this method return type is string, so I am going to show the status of the job on return. So just write return and then write job status here, and we will show the status of this job. So we will get the status from this execution. Write execution here .get status. So with this way we will get the job status. So our controller is also completed, and here we can see in run we are getting exception. So you can fix this by applying try catch block, but now I am using throw and throwable to resolve this issue. So our controller code is completed and we have successfully created a manual endpoint to trigger our job. Okay, so going to close this class, and so this is our configuration class. We have created job repository, platform transaction manager, created a pipeline and created a step. Okay, so these will execute in a sequence: reader, processor, writer, everything. Okay, and then we have created a job, and now we have a processor. Here we can modify any data, and in reader, so reader is reading the data from MySQL database. Okay, from here. And this is our writer. So this writer is writing the CSV file on the basis of that data which we are getting from MySQL database. So it will generate output underscore file.csv inside resources folder, and these are the columns which we are mapping. Okay, and now I am going to so this file will be generated inside resources folder. So I am going to run this application and just close all the files. And in log you can see batch is automatically triggered. Okay, and let me check if the file is generated or not. Okay, and if you go here in application.yml file, I think I did some mistake because job is automatically triggering. So, and here you can see one file generated, output underscore file.csv. So our batch is working fine, but it is automatically triggering. Okay, and here you can see one lakh data processed. So in application YML file we have to use enabled, not enable. Okay, so this was the mistake. Now our job will trigger on the basis of endpoint. When we will hit this endpoint, then our job will trigger. The problem was I didn't provide D on enabled. Okay, just going to delete this file from resources directory. Okay, and then run this application again, and here you can see around 1 lakhs of data into our database, and our application is running on 8080 port. You can see here. Just clear all the logs and I'm going to trigger my job. So this is the endpoint. We will have to pass batch and then start job. Okay, localhost, and this is the endpoint. Okay, so this is the endpoint, and if you go here, then you can see our batch is executing and the job status is completed. And if you go here in resource directory, then one file is generated, that is output underscore file.csv, and around 1 lakhs of data processed. And the column names are id, name, email. And if you go here in down, then you will see around 1 lakhs of data inserted inside this CSV file. I'm going to delete this CSV file again and I'll show you again. Okay, so just trigger this job again, then again our batch is executing and one file generated. And if you go here, then all data inserted inside our CSV file. So we have successfully fetched all the data from MySQL database and we have inserted all the data inside our CSV file.